ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in. Whoever tuned in, I really do appreciate it. Me and Tyler really both do appreciate it. It does help tremendously for us to get to start. It's our first episode. As I said, it is scientifically proven to be the best sports show you will hear. Our debate today will be Cam Newton versus Lamar Jackson. And before you say, well, that's a no-brainer, Lamar Jackson's so much younger and Cam Newton gets hurt, that's not what we're talking about. We are discussing 2015 MVP Cam Newton versus 2019 MVP Lamar Jackson. If you were to pick one to build a team around, who it would be and why? Lamar Jackson, 2015, Cam Newton, both MVP years. Obviously, Lamar's younger, so we can't say it's his prime, but I would say that's probably, well...
It's hard to get better than that.
Yeah, Cam Newton had a pretty damn good year. Building a franchise, though, if you had to pick a player, I went with Cam, you went with Lamar. I definitely think you're a little wrong here. I think the numbers kind of favor Cam in most ways.
I think as a quarterback, I honestly believe that they favor Lamar Jackson, especially in the fact that completion percentage-wise, he crushes you.
And his completion percentage was about 60, 66, 67?
66.1 to be exact.
And his rushing touchdowns, the rusher who was setting records, right? He had 7 rushing touchdowns.
Yep.
My guy had 10, but didn't get praised as much.
My guy also ran for 1,200 plus yards.
Your guy attempted also 40 more rushing attempts. But
600 more yards?
But I also would like to point out that your guy only threw for 3,100 yards compared to my guy's 3,800.
Well, that's the play scheme. They do a lot of shotgun passes and do little slant routes. They don't do big
And could you do me a favor and name a weapon that Cam Newton had in 2015?
Greg Olsen.
Oh, okay. And?
No, that's pretty much it.
Okay.
Could you name a real weapon on mine?
You're right. Same thing. Mark Andrews. You got one tight end.
So, I had a rookie receiver as the best receiver on the team.
But
he had one good game.
However, your guy did have the number 1 ranked offensive line, along with the Heisman backfield running back in Mark Ingram II.
That's true.
My guy had Jonathan Stewart, who at best was a 1,000-yard capped rusher.
Yeah, I had a far superior running game.
My guy had the 22nd ranked offensive line compared to your first. My guy took less sacks in the playoffs.
Because my guy had to scramble more. My guy was a real runner. My guy knows how to win games.
See, that's the interesting part, the whole win games. Because your guy lost to a 9-7 wild card team that year.
He did.
He had a QBR of 28, which is worse than spiking the football on every play.
That is very true. He had a bad game.
He also had 2 interceptions with the first offensive line ranked in football, and he ran for 1,200 yards, so you can agree he's elusive, right?
He is very elusive.
He took 4 sacks that game.
All right. Here's my argument. It's his second year. Cam Newton, when he went on his MVP run, what was that, 6 or 7 years in? He's been pretty well seasoned.
Here's the thing, though. If you want to pull that out, the one thing that benefits Cam with that, it really shows the Ravens have been a great team throughout the 2000s, correct?
I would agree with that, yes.
Okay, so it's not to take away from Lamar. Lamar has been a great player. However, Lamar Jackson inherited a great coach with a team that's already been good throughout the years, and he just made it better because he's such a great player. Cam Newton was the Panthers. That team has not recovered. They are not anything without Cam Newton. We'll see it this year. This will be their first true year with no Cam Newton drama, no Newton nothing. But that defense went downhill. It had 1 good year. So you can't say it was this great defense because they brought back most of their pieces, and it hasn't been nowhere near where it was. Cam Newton, 45 total touchdowns. Only 10 interceptions. Yes, he didn't complete most of his passes, but he's never been known as an accurate passer.
Well,
to be fair, your guy throws a lot more shorter passes. He had a shorter average. I believe it was like 7.4 to my guy's 7.8.
Yeah.
Your guy's not known as an accurate passer himself as well. I'd like to point that one out, even though he does have a higher completion percentage. I will give you that.
66 is pretty much good. It's above league average.
Is above league average what we want to talk about in terms of our MVP quarterbacks? Is that where you want to put him?
In one statistic, he's about average.
But where is he above average in the QB stats other than rushing?
QBR is pretty good. 113.3. Number 1 in the league.
QBR for all 16 games?
No, that's 102. That's 81.8. My bad.
Yeah, it's a lot different than 113. You're talking about Nick Foles, Aaron Rodgers level.
That's still first in the league.
And who was his competition?
For the season, he played the Dolphins twice, which did boost it a lot. He had great games.
So he played the Dolphins twice?
He beat Seattle, New England, Houston, Rams, 49ers, and Buffalo. Those are all great defenses.
He also played the Steelers twice, in which quarterbacks we can't name.
They had a top half of the league defense.
What about the Bengals? The Bugles? What about them?
They weren't that great.
He had them 2 games, and those were 2. If I'm not wrong, I believe I'm right. One of those games was a perfect passing rating, which definitely boosted his overall season.
1 in Cincinnati and 1 the first game of the season.
Which is also QBR, my opinion, still the worst stat in football. Considering I just said that your quarterback had 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, and took 4 sacks in his loss to the Titans in the playoffs, right? 28 QBR total. If he spiked the ball on every single down, he would have had a better QBR. That's the stat we use nowadays. I'd like to point that one out. You're telling me him spiking the ball would have been better than him throwing the touchdown 2 picks?
No.
What do you mean, no?
I'm telling you, with the QBR, it's a weird system. I don't know why they came up with 58.3.
Okay.
158.3.
Go ahead.
But I'm telling you, he was number 1 in the league, which means something. You know what I mean? It's something.
Okay,
Everyone's measured on the same scale, and he came out the best. That means he's number 1.
I'd like to bring up the passing statistics again.
All right, go for it.
Because see, your guy had me in percentage, right? For QBR by about 7%, which is 7%. Good. It is. But if I'd like to point out the other stats, your guy had 42 20-plus yard throws compared to 52 from Cam. You had 7 rushing touchdowns. Congrats, but you fumbled 8 times. And even with Cam Newton being one of the most hated players during 15-1, the NFL players still voted him the best player in football. After all that, not the MVP, the player vote. They voted him the best player in football, completing 59% of his passes. That's how good Cam Newton is.
Oh, it's so cool that the players voted him the top player in the league. That's so pretty. You know how much that means? Nothing.
How about the 7 rushing touchdowns and 8 fumbles? That means something.
Yeah, my guy weighs.
I'm an Eagles fan. LeSean McCoy ran for 1,200 yards, and he didn't fumble once in the season. That's what a real runner looks like. Your guy looks like a running turnover. Super Cam ain't a running turnover.
Yeah, my guy's a little guy. When he gets hit, things happen. That's why he doesn't get hit very often.
And then I also want to point out
statistic for you.
Go ahead.
867 yards before he even got touched. You know why?
I'm not questioning his running ability. He is translucent. He is a Madden player. He is Madden in real life. I will give him credit. I'm not on his bandwagon, but I will say he is Madden in real life. He is incredible to watch. I'm not questioning his running at all. It's the passing. I think, and I wanted to hold this to the end because it's very one-sided here, but you want to go about completion percentage. Why don't we go to the playoffs where Cameron Newton is boasting 70% in 2015. He completed 70% of his passes throughout the playoffs. 59% in the regular season, he jumped up to 70. If that's not clutch, I don't know what is. 496 passing yards. 5 touchdowns to 1 pick. He beat the Legion of Boom. A healthy Legion of Boom. He beat the 13-3 Arizona Cardinals that were on a roll with Bruce Arians at his prime coaching with prime Carson Palmer. Beat him 45-19. 2 touchdowns passing, 2 rushing, 87 QBR, 335 yards passing, averaging 12 yards a pass. Only took 1 sack in that game. Cameron Newton. I just don't see where Lamar fits in here. You run out of notes? I'll start off. Okay, so if you had to say Cam Newton or Lamar is the better passer, who would you take?
As a better passer for that season?
Yes, you were taking 2015 versus 2019. You were building a team and you needed a quarterback. Who are you relying on?
I'm taking Lamar.
You're taking Lamar? Why are you taking Lamar?
I know in the playoffs he'll struggle a little bit, obviously, but in the regular season, he was a good thrower. He threw the ball great. He has a lot of great throwing games.
He does, but you also got to take into fact a lot of his good throwing games were against really bad teams.
That's true. You got to beat up on the bad teams. That's what everyone does. You play good against the good teams, you do your best against the top, and then you crush the bottom. And if you're not crushing the bottom, that's where the problem is. So your stats should always be inflated when you're playing the Dolphins, Cincinnati. Just like when Cam in 2015 was beating up on the Buccaneers. Of course he was. He's the better team. He should be beating up on the Buccaneers. That's the whole point. They were a crap team. So you beat up on them. Just like he did in Washington. What was it in Washington? He had he won the game 40-something to 14 or something. Whatever it was. Washington stunk. They were terrible. They should win. That's what I'm saying. When they beat the Dolphins, Lamar Jackson, this year, game 1, 59-10, and he took him 20 throws. That's it, just 20. To throw for 324 yards and 5 touchdowns. That means 1 out of every 4 of his passes were touchdowns.
And there was a receiver who caught multiple of them. Do you know his name?
Yeah, Hollywood.
That was more than Cam Newton had in 2015, I'd like to point out.
Yeah, and Hollywood had 1 good
He
game,
did.
And guess
what?
But
are you going to tell me he wasn't? Are you going to say he wasn't a great vertical receiver threat throughout the season, even if he wasn't catching touchdowns?
He was a great receiver for that game.
You're saying he wasn't great?
He was very quiet. He didn't do a lot. He didn't score a lot of touchdowns. He was very quiet. He was just good at running straight.
My thing is, again, how heavy are you factoring in this run game? Because
the fact that it's part of the game, pretty good. I'm factoring in a lot.
It just blows my mind that we're talking about a quarterback who only barely passed 3,000 yards passing, and nowadays offenses, regardless of run or what, is better than a 2015 Cam Newton. And don't get me wrong, he didn't throw for much more, but 3,800, that's 700 more yards. That's 2 or 3 big games.
600 more rushing yards.
And you're right, but
so
you also
by 200 yards total?
But you also have 8 fumbles on 7 rushing touchdowns. You fumble more than you score running the ball.
Yeah, but I only lost 4 of them. So yeah, I fumbled 8 or 9 times, but I only lost 4.
That's
and they weren't all running. Some of them I was in the pocket and I got hit.
But and we're pretending that Lamar's not playing against the number 1 ranked offensive line in football. We held that against Dak. We hold that against Zeke. Why don't we hold that against Lamar?
I didn't say I didn't.
But that's an advantage that we're not pointing out. Cam Newton played with the 22nd ranked offensive line. You played with the 1st. I would hope if you had enough time in that pocket, you're completing 66% of the passes. I would hope behind the number 1 offensive line with that speed and agility and moves that you have, you should be able to rush for a lot of yards. Especially behind John Harbaugh, a great coach. And don't get me wrong, Ron Rivera was a good coach in Carolina. Until he does something without a prime Cam Newton, I don't know if he was ever actually a great coach. I don't know.
It's not ready yet. I didn't have Michael Thomas yet. I didn't have Kamara yet.
But you know what? I wasn't beating the Steelers quarterback whose only highlight was getting his head smashed in by a helmet. Even when the Saints sucked, I was versing Drew Brees, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. I had to beat. You didn't see anything near that. You saw, if anything, the best quarterback you saw is still a bust candidate in Baker Mayfield, and you lost the game to him by a long shot. They beat the hell out of him.
Yeah, and then they crushed him the next time they played.
I don't know. I just can't see. I can't see the whole hindsight of saying I would take Lamar Jackson when he just does not show that he has any playoff potential yet.
That's the whole point. It is potential. We don't know these things. But I know what I'll get with Cam.
Do you?
I know his best. I know his worst.
That's the thing,
you're
though.
not going to get much better Cam than his MVP year. He did throw 35 touchdowns. He did throw 3,800 passing yards. That's difficult. But now, I've seen his worst. And his worst is bad. It's like 11 straight losses bad.
See, but the 11 straight losses bad was on a very terrible team. I could pull up the 11 straight losses. 2015, what did that matter? If you're saying that's his worst, well, then I could say the worst is 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, 4 sacks. I think he fumbled twice and losing to a 9-7 wild card team when my guy went and beat the Legion of Boom that was terrorizing the entire NFL football league. By the way,
pointing out this wild card team.
I don't care how much credit you want to give them. It was a Cinderella run, and your team was a team that was supposed to win that messed up to the Cinderella team.
They were not supposed to win.
They were 9-7.
Or the 49ers were supposed to win.
I'm 9-7. You were supposed to beat the Titans. You lost to a quarterback who wasn't good enough to make it on the Dolphins. He got a contract he didn't deserve. Before you bring that up, huh?
You cannot argue he did not have a great season with the Titans.
He had a Nick Foles second half of the season.
Are we discounting what Nick Foles did?
Well, Nick Foles set records. He didn't, put up weak stats like he did. He set records.
Well, I'm just saying.
Let's not bring this in. I can bring up conversation with Nick Foles if you want. I mean, you want to talk about a passer. That's one hell of a passer right there. Majestic hair. Majestic hair, Nick Foles. Philly special.
All I'm saying is there's another team in history that was a wild card team, and they won the whole thing. They beat everybody. Do you remember who that team is, Timmy? They did it twice, actually.
Listen, Eli Manning.
Oh!
Eli Manning is different. I absolutely will, because you're comparing a 2-time Super Bowl MVP that beat the undefeated Patriots, beat Tom Brady, the greatest dynasty of all time, twice, to Ryan Tannehill, someone who got cut from the frickin' Dolphins, who their quarterback starting right now is Ryan Fitzpatrick, who for somehow, some way is still in the league. Absolutely, I will keep going back and forth about wildcard teams, because the Giants are the greatest wildcard team of all time. I said it. They beat
wildcard teams are there for a reason.
And you know what? The top teams, the top seeded teams, there for a reason too. You're not supposed to get whooped like that.
It happens.
Did it? Because I didn't see Cam Newton go there and get whooped.
No.
I didn't see Cam Newton throw a 20 QBR.
A veteran. Cam Newton was in the prime, years in.
Cam Newton.
Knows all the tricks.
Prime or no prime? Prime or no.
He's young.
Prime or no prime? Your guy lost to a 9-7 team. My guy beat the Legion of Boom, the team that was terrorizing the NFL. Then beat a 13-3 Cardinals that was terrorizing the NFL. Prime Carson Palmer, Bruce Arians at his absolute best as an offensive mastermind with a hell of a defense behind it. And he went out there and won 45-19. Your guy got smoked by Ryan Tannehill. 2 touchdowns passing, 2 rushing, 335 yards, 12 yards an attempt.
So what is Ryan Tannehill's actions against the defense affecting my guy Lamar?
Exactly. When
throw the ball down the field more and more and more.
When did the
defense to know?
Okay.
Well, he can't run. He's not going to win that way.
My question is, if you're going to talk about Ryan Tannehill and the defense, when did this Titans defense become this historically great defense to make Lamar Jackson, the 2019 cheat code Madden player, look like a 60 overall Madden player?
No, there's been teams to stop.
He looked like I threw a kicker in at one point, just with speed.
There's been teams to stop his running before. In Buffalo, he did not have a great running game. You can stop him. You got to stuff the box. You got to play good one-on-one outside coverage, which they did, and then make some tight throws, which he was not able to do that game because he was constantly under pressure. He was always on the run.
See, I don't think it's fair that you're saying that you've seen the best of Cam Newton. Because you're talking about this, and see how all this planning you do?
2015?
Yes.
Isn't the best Cam Newton?
No.
You're telling me there's a better Cam Newton somewhere out there?
Absolutely. How could you not say that?
I haven't seen it.
He was throwing the ball to Ted Ginn Jr.
Well, who's he going to throw to now? Edelman?
Edelman, N'Keal Harry. He could add receivers to it.
Yeah, but you know they're not going to.
They don't need
That's not
to.
Bill Belichick's way.
Because these receivers can actually catch. Julian Edelman can actually catch.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Ted Ginn Jr. is not a receiver. He's a returner. Cam Newton was never given any weapons. So to say you've seen his best and worst is not fair. He's had to carry a goddamn team. Lamar Jackson did not have to carry that team. They made the playoffs with Joe Flacco starting. Don't get me wrong. He went on his run at the end to get him there. But Joe Flacco started halfway through. So we can't ignore that. So to say you saw the best and worst of Cam, considering Cam has had to do more than Lamar's had to do, I don't care if Lamar's had more rushing yards. Because Lamar's had more help. Mark Ingram's better than Jonathan Stewart.
Yeah, I got a question for you.
What?
You want to bash my guy for being young and not that playoff experience and everything? Do you know what your guy did in the Super Bowl with the brightest lights, the top stuff?
He got there.
He did.
That's what a top team's supposed to do. Squash the little teams.
Fantastic. A 31.9 QBR, so he did do a little bit better than me.
That was in the Super Bowl, by the way, not a wild card round against a 9-7 team. By the way, against one of the greatest defenses in the Broncos, but we don't need to talk about that.
Peyton Manning, who didn't even throw for 150 yards. He threw no touchdowns, Peyton Manning. He threw a pick. He got sacked 5 times. Peyton Manning's QBR was an 8.
My guy had more touchdowns in one playoff game than your guy has in his career in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So,
and you couldn't
before you come at one bad game, my guys had one bad game, though. Your guy hasn't had a good one. That's the thing. And he could have more. It shouldn't be 2. It should be more. But he choked. Philip Rivers is not an elite quarterback. He should have beat the Chargers. He should have beat the hell out of them. He should have beat the hell out of the Titans. He should not have lost. Derrick Henry is not good enough to carry. Huh?
You're going to blame him for not even playing a half a season yet?
I said he should have beat them.
I don't think he should.
And I'm not even going to hold that against him, but I damn well hold the Titans against them. That's 2 years in the league. You should be able to win a playoff game. With that coach, that team around you, that momentum, you should have won a playoff game. You should not have lost to the 9-7 Titans in the fashion that you did. And don't give me any shit, because Patty Mahomes went down 28-0. You want to see what a real Madden player looks like? That's what a real Madden cheat code looks like. That's what a cheat code looks like.
No one compares to Patty Mahomes.
Well,
you know that, and I know. So bring it
listen,
up right now.
Listen, if you want to bring up another conversation about Patty Mahomes, I will gladly do a debate about Patty Mahomes. I can name 3 quarterbacks to compare to him. Don't get me wrong, he is absolutely astronomical with his throwing ability, but there's 3 quarterbacks that compare to him. He has Andy Reid. He is one of the greatest offensive minds in all of football. He took Alex Smith and made Alex Smith almost throw for 5,000 yards, and that's damn near impossible. So, yes, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, Carson Wentz. Arm talents, all of them.
All of them.
I'm not saying I would take
every single one.
Out of all of them, though, I would not take Carson Wentz over Mahomes. Absolutely not. I would not take Aaron Rodgers over Mahomes. The only one I would take over Mahomes is Russell Wilson, and I believe Russell Wilson is the most accurate football thrower we've ever seen in the NFL.
Well, there's a guy who actually owns all those records.
Yeah, no one. Where is he in the top 10 list, top 2 list?
I'm not going to bring that up because we're going to get off topic. I'm not bringing that up. Let's get back to the conversation at hand of Cam Newton and Lamar Jackson.
You want to get back to it? I'll get back to it. Your defense, actually, you might have had more talent on defense. You had 3 stud corners. You had Humphrey, Peters, huh?
I had more all-person, I had like 9.
You had the better team. Didn't have the better record. Didn't win a playoff game. I had less touchdowns. More turnovers.
Total touchdowns. touchdowns. I had more passing touchdowns than you.
You had one more touchdown throwing.
One less pick.
Yes, 3 less rushing. I had less fumbles. I only had 4 fumbles. I think only 2 were lost.
Listen, like I said, I don't think it's huge. Lamar over Cam. I said it's like an anthill, just a little grains of sand.
Lamar, it's very ticky tacky. You go through the stats.
It's very 50-50. One guy has this, one guy has that.
Lamar Jackson is the better runner. However, I do not think he's a better football player. I think Cam Newton at 6'6" just has the physical gifts, and that's what puts him ahead. You're 6'6", 250. You're bigger. You look at the rushing. Yes, don't be wrong. Lamar has more rushing yards. He runs the ball a lot more. The offense heavily relies on him, and he busts out very, very big runs because of the speed. So, of course, he's going to have more yards. He's going to get longer runs. He's going to get more attempts. But if you look at the percentages, the first down percentages, they're exactly the same. You look at the yards attempt, they're almost the same. It's not like they're completely different players. I just think Cam Newton at that time is still years away from Lamar. I think Lamar's got another 2 years before he actually develops into an all-star superstar passer. I think he's going to put up the stats he did this year. He's going to keep doing it, and he's going to keep getting the fans. But I think his realistic winningness will come probably two years from now.
I don't think Lamar's ever going to win a Super Bowl.
I'm just waiting for a playoff game.
Obviously, he crushed them. Like the Dolphins, like I said, 20 throws, 5 touchdowns.